All these politics checking off the list, religious hypocrites trying to sell me other doctrine, trying to sell me something for my soul, trying to sell me something for my soul. Now, fiery-eyed brimstone teachers trying to tell me something different, but I ain't gonna listen. No, I'ma start my own religion. I'ma start my own religion. I got roses going in my backyard. Every soul that's lost is a tear from God, and I'm hopeful that one day we'll see every wall we've built will crumble. All the benefits that the richer people get is the poor get poor and the wealthy get rich. Now, I don't think it makes a difference. Chrome a diamond, real affliction. There's a TV switches and the salmon gives you pictures. All the scrolling keeps you twitching, but you know there's something different. Now you feel like you're the one that's in control, but are you really in control? I got roses growing in my backyard. Every soul that's lost is a tear from God, and I'm hopeful that one day we'll see every wall
Thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate you guys. So I want to say hello to Claire. I know you're spending your, I guess, early morning with us from Dubai. Thanks for stopping by. Simon from Germany, thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate you. Harry, thanks for stopping by also. Yeah, so today we're broadcasting from a super secret location. This is why you guys, I'm like blocked in. This super secret location is in my kitchen. Just so that you guys know, if there are any audio challenges or anything is a little wacky, if you could maybe make a comment and we'll do what we can to fix. So again, thanks everybody for taking the time and stopping by the channel. I think we should get started. I get a lot of comments about how it takes me a moment to get started. So I just want to dive right on in. And I realize that this is not a popular topic or opinion shared amongst a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of YouTubers, particularly really large YouTubers. Everyone is quick to say things like, gear doesn't matter. And I consider myself a working professional, as a filmmaker, as a content creator, as someone who works with brands day in, day out, multiple times a week. Gear has improved my quality of life on set. Gear has made it so that I could go after larger clients. Gear has allowed me to keep my group, my team, employed. And it's all been possible because if gear really didn't matter, then why would a client need to hire us? Everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, and in fact, if you're all are participating here, if anyone doesn't have a cell phone within arm's reach, I'd like to hear about it. I mean, at this point, I know so many kids in elementary school, so under 12 years old, already have a cell phone. So if gear doesn't matter, then why isn't everything shot on a cell phone? And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that subject here in just a few seconds. So this particular YouTube live that we are all participating in just right now was inspired by a video that I saw yesterday. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you guys before, but in my company, everybody gets to pick their creative day, and creative day essentially means they can choose to come in or not come in or do their own thing, or they can use our gear to go pursue their own projects. Basically, it's a way of unplugging from like our day-to-day work, and everybody gets one of those days a week. My creative day is always on a Friday. So last night when I unplugged, I started watching some YouTube because I really enjoy YouTube, and I enjoy, following people's journeys in whatever it is that they're doing or showing. And one of the people that I happen to follow is a huge YouTuber that I'm sure no one's ever heard of before, by the name of Peter McKinnon. And of course, I was being sarcastic when I said no one's ever heard of him, because clearly the guy puts in a tremendous amount of work, has put in a tremendous amount of work throughout his career to allow him to reach the levels that he has reached. And in this particular video that I'm talking about, he had a stack of cameras, and basically he's been going through a cleanup of sorts. He's embracing minimalism in certain aspects, and essentially he's slimming down on gear is where he's at this point in his journey. And with the whole stack of cameras, he basically went through one by one, multiple R6s, multiple R5s, C200, C500 Mark II, and so on. He just went on and on with all these different cameras, and he's deciding which ones is he keeping, which ones is he not keeping. At the end of the video, he suggested, or actually stated, that gear isn't important, that gear doesn't matter, and that we should all have better conversations. And I think, Alexander, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. I think that what Peter was saying is true in a lot of ways for people like Peter McKinnon. But it's not true for people like Carlos and many of the people that follow and watch this channel. And why am I saying this? Because, for example, me, right? My company isn't just Carlos, it's a group of people, and everybody needs their income so that they can make their mortgage payment, their car payment, put food on the table, you know, everything else that goes along with needing to work. In other words, most of the people that work for me are not independently wealthy. And for me, I need to go into the studio, work my ass off, deliver professional products so that people can continue to want to work with me. And I still need to have a beacon going after new business. Like, I have a dedicated couple of people that are constantly targeting companies, targeting groups, and we're presenting ideas, going after new business, and so on and so forth. Contrast me to, say, Peter McKinnon. He has millions of followers on YouTube that generate, I'm guessing, some sort of revenue from AdSense or from AdWords when people are running ads in front of or during or after his content. That's actually great. And when people on YouTube reach millions of followers, you know, I'm guessing his ratios are way better than mine, but like, for example, with me, about 20% of the people that subscribe to my channel watch every single one of my videos. Well, if that's true for Peter, then Peter is getting millions upon millions upon millions of views every single week. That is not the case for a channel my size. So when a brand approaches me and they want to work with me, I have, you know, my media kit that I give the brands. I also have my day rate or project rate, which I give to the brands. I also have, you know, whatever it is that we're delivering or when we would deliver or what we would be comfortable with doing or not doing and so on. So we have those conversations when people reach us. And very quickly, what they realize is that, and why you guys don't see a whole bunch of sponsored content, is that my channel is way too small to have a laundry list of criteria. So they give up and they go on their merry way, and I don't get those types of brand deals. Again, contrast me to Peter McKinnon, and Peter McKinnon, I'm guessing, is like MKBHD level, where he is turning down projects rather than explaining to people how he might be willing on working with them. I guarantee you, people are coming to him because he already has this ginormous audience that if he presents something, I'm guessing a lot of people are going to have eyeballs on it, not just when it launches, not just that week, but perpetually for as long as Peter keeps his channel active. That's of huge value to brands and companies and organizations, right? Which is very different than what I explained, the way that it works for me. I get an email, I fire off my media kit. They want to continue to work with me, then I give them all of the things I won't do. And usually that's where it ends for me. Sometimes it does move on, and sometimes we do work out some sort of deal where they are willing on paying the production cost and maybe a little bit of commission on top of that for me. And I always disclose that with you guys when I'm working with a brand or when I have worked with brands. But less and less that is happening simply because of the stance that I've taken and then just the way that it's positioned. But going back to the whole gear doesn't matter when you're producing content that is going to live or be broadcast on YouTube, particularly if it's your own YouTube platform. But when gear begins to matter is when I have to work with the client and then I have to hand off the footage to some editor that is not part of our company. Or when I show up and I've had, say, a light malfunction, and all of a sudden I need to get that shot, it's a product shot, and I needed that super, super soft, gigantic, soft light, and that light just died on me. All of a sudden, gear matters, because not getting that shot, not delivering on that project means I might be fired. I may have to eat the entire production cost, and I will likely not be called again if I can't pull off the project that I promised I could pull off in my signed legal agreements with my clients. So all that to say that gear doesn't matter when you're someone like Peter, who has a tremendous following, and I'm not taking anything away from his hard work or his ability to build his channel, his audience, and everything else to the level that he has, because clearly it's taken a lot of years, work, and things that we haven't seen on his YouTube channel to get Peter where Peter is today. That's all fine. But for Peter to just make a blanket statement about how we all need to have better conversations because gear really doesn't matter, it's fake news. It's not true. We're not all Peter, and what's more interesting is we will not all reach Peter's level. We simply won't. You know, it's like saying everyone is guaranteed to be a billionaire. That's not true. Everyone can work hard. Potentially, everyone can make $1 million. But will everyone become a billionaire? Probably not. And it's the same thing that I said in the beginning, where I was like, if gear really didn't matter, then why does Canon have a C700 full frame, a C700 Super 35, a C500 Mark II, a C300 Mark III, a C200, a C70, and so on? If gear really doesn't matter, then why do all these products exist? And the answer is, it matters to most of us who are making a living outside of YouTube, who are making a living, whether it be in the wedding space or in the live event space or in E&G work, and so on and so on and so on. It matters because the gear that we choose, the gear that we have, the gear that we put in our collection really should help us be faster, more efficient on set, and then more importantly, deliver exactly what we promised to our clients as part of that post-production, delivery workflow. That's when gear matters. When gear doesn't matter is when you want to learn filmmaking, for example. If someone is today seriously starting at, I want to learn filmmaking, then yeah, gear doesn't really matter as long as you have a cell phone. Because you can begin to understand how to frame up a shot, the difference between a wide shot, a medium shot, and a close-up. You can begin to understand why it is that you might want to purchase more gear to get better audio. And so on, and so on, and so on, right? So when you're starting out, gear doesn't matter because there's a lot of learning that needs to happen. But after you're established, or you're trying to run a production company, or you're trying to, take pictures that are going to end up on billboards, or you're working on a social media campaign for a new apparel brand or new whatever kind of brand, all of a sudden, your gear choices begin to matter a lot, because your gear choices are also then defining your ability to succeed with how much or how little effort, and then also What will your outward facing impression be to everyone that you are providing your services to? That's when gear matters, right? Like if I was hired, I don't do weddings. So this is a pretend, right? So let's say that today I decided I'm going to get into the wedding world and I'm going to start offering video that covers, weddings, everything from the getting ready to the first look and cutting the cake and the first dance and so on and so forth. And I'm going to use a cliche thing. I'm going to rely heavily on slow motion to tell my cinematic story. Well, I can do that with my iPhone 12 Pro Max. It shoots in HDR, it shoots in high frame rates. And if I showed up in that scenario to these people that are paying me thousands of dollars in some cases to cover their wedding, and all I showed up with was my cell phone, how many referrals or additional weddings would I get from those families that attended that event? Not to mention, how would my world be in post-production? And that's what I mean about gear matters. And I realize that that was a very silly way of saying what I'm saying, but it's a fact, right? Like gear matters to all of us that are trying to make a living off of it. Gear doesn't matter to the people that effectively have what I'm going to call made it. There are plenty of those people on YouTube who have made it that have opinions, right? There are people, you all see it, I see it, I follow a lot of them. I know that if Aperture releases a new light, I know which channels are going to get that new light. I know that if Canon releases a new camera, I know which YouTuber in Canada is going to be able to get the camera before anyone else in the United States gets it. Because that's what I've now been trained to. So those are the types of people that I'm saying they've made it, right? The brands have built and established a working relationship with their channels and their audiences. So they know that, hey, if I need to reach a wide audience, I can go to these different YouTube channels and they're going to nail it. And then of course, there are other channels that are much smaller, and that's why you end up seeing a lot of like the trickle down of products. So Hollyland, for example, is an example. Hollyland sent off their Mars Pro to the channels that they felt were like the A level, and then once those died off, they started sending them to other people with much smaller channels and so on to try to keep their SEO up and have it matter. That's just the way that it works. So if I was Peter McKinnon, I probably would be like, yeah, gear doesn't matter. Because one, I have access to any gear that I want, anytime that I want. And then two, I have clients lining up at my door, asking to work with me. And that's just not the case for the majority of us in this industry. Most of us have to go out and try to get work and earn work and put in work to get work, right? Like it's hard keeping a client. Like getting a new client is difficult. Keeping an existing client is equally as difficult. And some of the people that are telling us and wanting us to believe that gear doesn't matter, I'm not going to say that they're liars or that they're full of shit, but I am going to say they live in a different world, work-wise, than what we do. And that was really the point of my entire video and what it is that I wanted to get off my chest in a way. But more than anything, just not to fact check them, but so that we all know that we can't show up for a commercial project and expect to be welcomed when all we have is our cell phone with. That's really kind of where I'm at. So I'm gonna check the comments because I haven't seen, I haven't been paying attention as I was doing my little monologue here. So let's see. So again, Claire from Dubai, thank you again. Yeah. Rigging on the C70. Does anyone who is watching this or has been following my channel, do you guys have like a set rig for your C70 yet? I'm holding out. I'm holding out for the Bright Tangerine for multiple reasons. One, because I want it to work with my dovetails that I already own. And I don't want to switch to Arca Swiss or Manfrotto plates or whatever else other cages use. That's the reason why I'm holding out. But Zacuto was the other one that I was considering, and when I tried Zacuto, I very quickly realized that's not perfect. And it's not just not perfect, it could use work, and I'm gonna leave it alone because I don't want any bad blood. But Zacuto would not be my choice. But if anyone has a rig that they've been able to sort out that allow you to go from handheld to sticks to maybe shoulder, that you could, share with the group, please leave it in a comment, because I'd be really curious and I'd be more than happy to share with my audience, because I think that that's a real thing. So we already said hello to Simon from Germany. Thanks again for stopping. Finland, Harry, thanks for stopping, man. Really appreciate it. Wow, I didn't know that we would get this many people from the other side of the ocean here. Danny, again, thanks for stopping by. And Alexander from France, you're a trooper, dude. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the support. Really appreciate it. Let's see, James, love this insight, it's so true. I mean, I hope nobody thinks I was picking on Peter, because I'm not. Because Peter's not the only person who's ever said gear doesn't matter. Let's just get that crystal clear out there. But it's also absolutely false to think that gear doesn't matter. It just is. Okay, so Danny's talking to Claire, and also then talking back. So let's see here. All right, Harry, I would say that gear doesn't matter. It's true for a hobbyist like me shooting with the X-T4. That camera is better than my current skills in filmmaking. I believe for pros, it's a different story. So Harry, that's actually a really good point, right? I think that gear, the whole don't lust after gear and don't go in debt trying to acquire gear, I think that that's a very important thing. I'm a firm believer that if you buy a piece of gear, you're intending, or you already either have work signed, like with clients, or you found a problem with some existing clients that you're trying to solve. The only time that is not true for me is when I choose to upgrade a camera. Like, I was very happy with my C300 Mark II. They released the C500 Mark II, and you know what I did? I sold the C300 Mark II and I bought the C500 Mark II. Why? Because it was full frame. Did I absolutely need it? No. Was it a good decision? At the time, it was an iffy decision. And as it turns out, it was a great decision, because it's what started my company from offering Super 35 productions to only offering full frame productions. And that, as it turns out, became a really good positioner for the types of projects and types of work that we do. So I got lucky. I guess it's the best way to say that. I got lucky with that decision. Fast forward, and then they released the Sony a7S III, which is a terrific video capable camera. They call it a hybrid camera. I wouldn't go that far, because for stills, regardless of what really large channels will say, a 12 megapixel image is too small for a billboard campaign. I'm going to leave that alone, because No one needs to agree with me. People can do whatever it is that they want to do. And that's really it. But again, A7S III finally is released. People begin buying it. More and more people begin acquiring it. It has a good image. It has better color. And it has full frame. So back to that whole iffy purchase that worked out and I got lucky, it allowed my company to pivot and essentially say, for professional work, we're only going to shoot on cinema cameras. And all of a sudden, the people that we would normally compete against that had armed themselves with Sony A7S IIIs are now no longer our competitor in our sales pitch, if that makes any sense. And that doesn't take away from their ability to deliver, their ability to shoot, what kind of images they can get, how much time they're going to spend in post-production to polish up whatever that project is. It takes nothing away from the people or the effort or anything really, other than the way that we present ourselves to some of these larger companies, right? Larger companies that are used to much larger budgets than say what you would shoot on a mirrorless camera. And I'm not, again, taking anything away from the ability of the individual or the ability of the mirrorless camera. It's just a perception thing that works out in marketing. And it's worked out for us. So then there's that. Hiccup, do you say your name Hiccup or is it Jacob? And I'm sorry that I don't know this, but I think he's absolutely right. Gear matters, and it matters to all of us that are trying to make money using the gear and working through some of those challenges. Okay, I don't really, what is this? If gear didn't matter, then my friends down at the rental house would not be doing very much business. So that's, again, yeah, very, very true. Gear matters. James Jackson is in the house. I don't know if you're still here or not, James, but thanks for stopping by, dude. Really appreciate you. Such a great example and an incredible valid point. Yeah, I mean, you know, none of us are going to show up to a paid project with our cell phone and expect to get paid, or expect not to get kicked out. Maybe it's a better way of saying that. So I need to drink some water because I'm getting really warm. I don't know why, but I always, even now, I get nervous when I'm doing these live streams. I get nervous when I'm recording. I get nervous when I'm in front of the camera. I'm a much better person behind the camera, 100%. That's true. And the more I talk, the more red I get. And I'm wearing red, so now this is bouncing off of this and going into my face. Not a good look. Derek, thanks, man. Appreciate that support. Let's see here. Nomad Jordan, I saw his video and glad you're speaking on it. More opportunities opened up for me having higher end gear. That's true every time. I don't know why, but it's so true. Than just having prosumer and mid-level gear. Canon is just so big, he can go minimalist. And that's true. And you know, it's like I said, or like he said even in his video, once he finishes the projects that he chose to shoot on Red, he's going to sell his Red Monstro. And if he ever needs it again, he'll just hire a DP that has a Red Monstro, and he'll just direct. He said that in the video. And I feel like that's a little bit of a contradiction to gear doesn't matter. But from his perspective, as he's transitioning away from being an owner, operator, shooter, guy that maybe has done a lot of things with smaller crews or by himself, and he's seeing his own career grow towards being more of a director, then his points are way more valid. But I wish he would have said that, right? I wish he would have just been like, hey, if I'm going to start up a production company today, so March 2021, you're going to need some gear. Otherwise, how are you going to have something to offer a client? Like, he should have said something to create that crystal clearness instead of saying gear doesn't matter, let's have better conversations. That's my take on it. Always watch your videos, very honest and objective. Thanks, really appreciate it, man. I try to not be biased even towards me with some of what I share here, because I realize that some of what I say, may affect somebody's decision. And that would be a mistake. It's like, could you imagine if I came on my channel and said, everyone should buy a red Monstro, even if you have to mortgage your house? That would be ludicrous, stupid, and it could hurt people. I'm a big fan of buy the gear you need to deliver the projects that you have on the books, the stuff that's been inked, the stuff that is allowing you to make a living. Don't put it on your credit card, and don't take out a loan to acquire gear. I mean, if at all ever possible, and if you had to, or you found yourself in a situation where you absolutely needed an array of airy sky panels, that's a lot of money, right? An array, let's say 10 to 12 of those. That's a lot of money. Rent them and then include it in your project so that you don't end up eating any of that rental, including the shipping for the rental, if it's going to be shipped. That's what I would do. Or find someone else that already has the gear and then partner with them and pay their day rate or their gear rate or whatever, however it is that they're working it out, so that the two of you can collaborate and then move ahead. And on that note, and before I finish reading or continue reading more comments, I'm going to say this, because this is also something that I've seen float around on YouTube a lot, sometimes on Instagram. And that is that you don't need high-end gear to go shoot your feature. I think that that's equally as fake news as gear doesn't matter, because let's just put ourselves in check and think about this just in your head, because I don't want you to out yourself and I'm not going to out me. But I've shot projects that I thought, like, my cinematic vision was ginormous. And when I got on set with the gear that I was able to attain and the budget that I had, they don't compare to Star Wars. They don't compare to Guardians of the Galaxy. They don't compare to Toy Story. They just don't. And the reason for it is that I didn't have the gear, the money, the finances, the professionals at every single department to be able to pull off that level of production. So it's more important for us to understand our skill set or limitations within our skill sets, what gear is attainable to us, so what's available, who it is that we might be able to collaborate with, what our environments are, and is there or isn't there a budget. And then once we have a picture of what can be done with what is available to us, our own resources, then we tailor our stories to fit that niche or that category or that production, so that we don't end up getting disappointed when we come back and we're like working on this project thinking, yeah, I just shot the next Guardians of the Galaxy, and it isn't. And I think that it's really important that we're all honest with ourselves. And this is, by the way, a conversation that I have with my clients all the time, right? Do you want like, for example, we shot several Super Bowl commercials, local broadcast Super Bowl commercials, not national. And when I was meeting with some of these clients, we began talking about their budget, their expectation, what it is that they wanted to do wow factor wise and so on. And I basically said, look, what you want and what you have budget-wise, it's not meshing. So we need to either scale back your expectation and then work within your budget, or we need that budget to get bigger. Either way, we're happy to help. And we have those conversations with clients on a very regular basis. Because just because you saw, like, I feel like a lot of clients in the space that we work in with, you know, TV commercials for Samsung phones saying, oh, you're capturing in 8K, that's professional quality capture. You know, things like that. They're giving clients misinformation, and it's setting expectations for clients that are, you know, astronomical for the budget that's available to them. And I think that's why it's important that we bring everybody back to some sort of level ground and then sort of build from that. And I think it falls right in line with the whole gear doesn't matter. Well, gear does matter. Just like budget matters, just like how big is your crew matters, or how big is your cast, or are you actually traveling to Ireland to get some of those epic scenery shots, or are you buying stock footage? Like, which is it? And which of those two fits your budget better? Because I would absolutely love to have, you know, millions of dollars to shoot a television commercial, but that's just not the space that I play in. It's just not, and that's just the truth. Okay, so let's go back to some more comments here. Derek, do you make wedding LUTs? No, Derek. We make, you know what? I'm going to talk to my team about that, because I think that some of the looks that we have could work, but we would need to collaborate. And in fact, Derek, if you wouldn't mind sending me a DM on social or an email, my contact information is listed on my channel. I'd like to sort of have a clear understanding of what you're looking for, so I can run it by my team and then sort out, is this something that we might be able to do? And obviously, if you're willing on experimenting with us, you know, we'll give you access to all of our library, and we can begin to build them from there. So let me know if you're interested. I'd love to collaborate. I think that would be really awesome. Shot on R5. So Shot on R5, at some point we have to meet, because I feel like you're one of my best friends on the platform. I love how technical you are. Yeah, so if ever we can make it work, I'd love to buy you a beer. Or a glass of wine. It doesn't have to be beer. Claire, if gear didn't matter, I wouldn't be having such a hard time rigging up the C70. That's funny. Yeah, trying to turn it into a C300 Mark III. So that's really interesting. You know, this is one of the reasons why, as much as I know the C70 for me can replace, I'm going to say 90% of what I shoot on the C500 Mark II, it can't replace it all, which is the reason why the C500 Mark II will always be a part of my camera lineup. It just will. I think what Peter was talking about is that once you get to a certain level and you have what you need to do your jobs proficiently, chasing gear alone, just to chase it, is a fool's errand. I think, Sid, that's a really valid point. And I think it's in line with what I said earlier in my little monologue, right? You buy the gear that you need to get through your projects or to solve an issue on set for you that you're trying to overcome. I don't think you buy gear just to collect it or have it sit on the shelf. If something is just sitting on the shelf, I think that that's a problem, because it's not making money for you. And you know, in retail, in the world of retail, when things sit on a shelf, this actually applies to car dealerships too. When cars sit in a lot, every single day that goes by, it costs the car dealership money. That's the reason why you see so many car dealerships have incentives towards the end of the month because their balloon payments for whatever sat on the lot and whatever's been sitting on the lot for multiple days are due. And they owe them to the brands that they're buying vehicles from. So having that understanding of what causes urgency helps us sell our services to them. So I think having that business knowledge is a little bit important, but then more importantly, making sure that you have the gear that is going to allow you to be successful when you're shooting out in full sun, if that's what you're doing. If say the car dealership doesn't have a big showroom where they can actually drive the vehicles into it, then, I mean, those are two very different camera packages, right? Something inside of the showroom versus outside of the showroom. So having the gear that's going to allow you to be successful wherever your client is needing you is really important and critical. And if it sits on the shelf, it's costing the client money. And if it's sitting on your shelf, so let's say you have a lens that you bought because you saw someone talk about how super sharp the Canon 70-200 is, and it's just sitting on your shelf and you haven't used it, guess what it's doing? It's costing you money because you could have used that money, invested it in something else, or even if you left it in the bank, which that's probably also not the super smartest thing to do, but even if you left it in the bank, it would have earned you some interest. Whereas the lens just sitting on the shelf is literally costing you at the minimum the interest that you would have earned from that cash being in the bank. And that applies, as I mentioned, to retail, it applies to us, and why collecting gear just for the sake of collecting it, unless you're independently wealthy and this is what your hobby is, you probably shouldn't just buy gear to buy it. Whoa, that was a long rant. Okay, gear doesn't matter, why nobody uses a cell phone. Exactly, shout on R5. Good gear doesn't make up for lack of fundamentals. That's another terrific point. I really believe, I'm a firm believer, that learning the craft, exercising the creative muscle, getting out there and shooting, even if it's for ourselves on a very regular basis, and working out our workflows, whether it be our workflow on set, our workflow in post-production, our pre-production, scouting, and so on and so forth, learning all of the different pieces is what allows us to be better. And then once we have an understanding of the entire workflow from cradle to grave, you know, we say that in technology as in software development. So from concept all the way to fulfillment. Once we have an understanding of that, and we choose to, for example, I want to be a hands-on DP, so I want to operate and also direct. That is what I do. So, and that's what I wanted to do. So I made sure that I understood everything there is to know about the cameras that I'm using, how exposure affects them, which scenarios I need which lenses or which filter sets, and so on and so forth. And I think that that's what allows us all to be successful in our projects. Because if I would have just bought, and this is actually a really, really good example, I'm not gonna say his name, but if he's watching this video, you're gonna know I'm talking about you, so I'm gonna apologize in advance. If someone was to say, buy a red camera, a red 8K camera, and then they want to use a shotgun microphone and have that shotgun microphone feed audio directly into the red. And they worked out that they needed a microphone preamp. That's fine. But then they're struggling to figure out why it is that a shotgun microphone, it's kind of funny, but it's not. But it helped me understand people. Why it is that the shotgun microphone was only sending audio to one channel. Is the shotgun broken, or is the preamp broken, or is the camera broken? At first I didn't understand the question, because shotgun microphones, as I'm guessing the majority of the people that watch my stuff, are mono microphones, as in one channel. So if you're feeding one channel of audio into either the left or right channel on a Red camera, it should go on the left or right channel, because that's how it works. The only way to get that audio to work on both channels, even though you're feeding one channel in, is to go into the menu and then select the mix and switch from left goes to left and right goes to right, and put both of them in the middle so that left feeds both left and right feeds both left and right. And then it doesn't matter which XLR you plug into, when it's feeding back into the camera, it's going to feed audio into both of your channels. So here's someone who bought a Red camera, very expensive Red camera, that didn't understand the camera, and then for a few days to maybe a couple of weeks, thought the camera was broken because they couldn't get a mono microphone to feed audio into both channels. That's a good example of what Raphael said, which is good gear doesn't make up for lack of fundamentals. And that happens, I hate to say it, but it happens a lot. And this is one of the reasons why when Red Komodo was released, we saw a lot of really horrible Red Komodo footage hitting YouTube. Just because it's attainable, it doesn't mean that a cinema level camera is going to work like a Sony a7S. It just doesn't. I'm going to get off that soapbox. I'm thinking we're still talking about the rigging on that one, James. Yes, just like Griffin is saying here, I'm also waiting for Bright Tangerine because I really want my dovetails to work. I don't want to switch systems. Small rig and Tilta. I think I would rather buy small rig than Tilta. Every time, I don't know why this happens to me, but every time that I've chosen to give Tilta my money, something quality-wise just doesn't work. Either threads get threaded out like stripped, or things can't get tightened anymore. I mean, it's just really weird. So I'm kind of the stay away from Tilta camp, at least for now. Yep, that's right, James. Griffin is in the chat, so thanks for joining, Griff. Really appreciate it. You can have a C700, C300, or 5 or 6, but if you're not talented or have the vision, you have the best gear in the world, you won't accomplish anything. So that's true. And again, it kind of goes back to having skills, right? Having skills, having creativity, exercising that creative muscle. You know, for example, I'm going to use me again because I'm okay with outing me. I'm not okay with outing other people. But I will start drafting scripts for things that I may never shoot, just so that I don't ever get complacent or become complacent when I have to figure out how to be creative about how I sell, let's say, a roll of toilet paper, which is, that's actually really interesting. I wish Bert was on this, because her and I do this all the time, where we come up with scripts for commercials for products that we're seeing on TV and how it is that we might be able to improve them. And the toilet paper one is one of those, which I think is actually really funny. And we might end up shooting, if nothing else, just to see if we could pull it off. But yeah, that's Shazam. Thanks for stopping by, dude. Really appreciate it. It's always awesome to see some of the people I really like to show up on these live streams. I'm waiting for a full review of the FX6. I'm from Uganda. So here's the short version of the FX6 review. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to start wine time. because it's after 4 p.m. here. Okay, short version of the FX6. The FX6 is a terrific camera if you do broadcast work. And it's a terrific camera if you work with one-man bands or very small crews. Because the FX6 effectively operates and runs like a camcorder. And I know that's like taboo. Some people don't really want to hear that because it's in the Sony cinema line and so on and so forth. Just because I said it operates and runs like a camcorder, I'm not taking anything away from the image quality or the ability to capture a cinematic image out of that camera. What I am saying is that when you're running a camcorder, just like when you're shooting on your cell phone, there are things that we can allow a camcorder to make decisions for. Things like your iris, your NDs, your autofocus, your audio levels. So there are lots of things that the camera will allow you to set onto auto mode, and then essentially all you have to do is frame up the shot so that you can get the shot. That's, in my opinion, what makes the FX6 valuable. Because there are lots of us that have had to adjust and pivot in some of our productions. And if you're having to work by yourself and you don't need to think about NDs, that auto ND feature can come in really clutch. I'm not there yet. I'm not there with autofocus yet. I'm not there with ND yet. I'm not there with iris yet. I'm trying to trust autofocus, but I'm not quite there. And I'm definitely not there with audio levels. So for me, a more manual control camera, and maybe I'm just a control freak, and that's cool. But a manual control camera allows me to make sure that I get what I need. And then in some weird way, it forces me to pay more attention on set, not just to my story, but to my framing, to what is in the frame, and how it is that I'm progressing through my shot list. Instead of just, oh, yep, I'm gonna aim it here, got the shot, aim it here, got the shot, I'm gonna dolly in, dolly out, or anything else. Like having manual control for me, and I don't know if any of you guys feel this way or not, but having manual control for me allows me to know that what I'm seeing in the frame is a result of what I just set up, or what my crew helped me set up. And if something doesn't look quite right, then this is the person that needs to fix it. It's not, oh, the camera screwed up on me. So the buck stops here, and maybe that's just my old school way of thinking, I don't know. But that's the short version of the FX6 review. And is it a good camera? Yeah. Does it produce a good image? Yep. Can you get cinematic quality images out of the FX6? Yes. Is it more of a camcorder versus a cinema camera? And the answer is 10 out of 10 times, the FX6 is more of a camcorder than it is a cinema camera. And that's not a bad thing, just so that we're all clear. It's not a bad thing. Okay. So let's see here. Noxtrum, thanks for stopping by from Canada. So you're at least in more of my time zone, which is really cool. Sid, I do agree with gear for efficiency to a point. I'm not showing up to any job with an iPhone, anything. So we are totally in agreement there. Yeah, no one would ever show up to a job with their iPhone. That just wouldn't make sense. For Pocket 6K Pros, 810 Mini, Extreme, and Sigma, that's one hell of a broadcasting setup. Yeah, that would be freaking awesome. And I totally, I'd hire you in a heartbeat to help me do a live broadcast if that's what you're bringing. Absolutely. Pocket 6K Pro, it kills my C200 and Pocket 4K. So that's a really bold statement, Shazam. The Pocket 6K kills, it's gotta be because of the workflow on the back end, right? B-RAW just flies on most systems. So it's gotta be the reason why you said what you said. I can't imagine that it's because, like if we're comparing apples to apples, image quality versus image quality, I wouldn't say that one kills the other. I would say that they're on par. The post-production side with that raw light thing that Canon did with the C200, that's tough on a lot of systems. And I can see why someone would say that the Pocket 6K is better. Absolutely. Let's see here. I do agree. Okay. Well, why is it showing up again? There we go. I tested the speed booster with the C70 yesterday and I have very strong chromatic aberration in the image. Did you notice that too? So Simon, I don't know which lens you used. I will say that the less expensive a lens is, likely will have bigger problems with chromatic aberration. When I use the focal reducer on the C70 with my Canon CNE primes, I don't have chromatic aberration. I don't own any, like the cheapest lenses that I own are Canon L lenses. So I don't own any less expensive lenses to test, but on the lenses that I do own, whether it be the Canon Cinema Primes or the compact Cinema Primes or the stills version of the L lenses that I've used on the C70, I don't really see that as a problem. But maybe somebody else in the chat can actually chime in and see. Gear matters when you know how to use it. Absolutely, and thank you for stopping by the live stream, Camkey. Really appreciate it. I've been like binge watching your channel, by the way. Which, you know, it's really fun and it's super creative. I really like that, this one video that you shot here recently where the girl was like taking shots with a guy, they ran out of shots and then she rode her horse to the local gas station to pick up some beer. I thought that was phenomenal. If you guys haven't seen that video, you all need to go check out his channel because it's really awesome. Gear only matters when it becomes a bottleneck in your abilities. So that's true. And also it matters when you're trying to make a living off of it, right? If all you're doing is running a YouTube channel, maybe it matters a little less. But if you need to solve a problem on set, so for example, if you can't afford a full set of IR NDs for your matte box, then choosing a camera that has built-in NDs may be a better option and a better way for you to spend your money versus blowing out highlights. So there's my thought on that. Yep, Seda Green, of course. Tyler, thanks for stopping by, dude. Really appreciate it. This is gear question, sorry. Carlos, this is a gear question. What is a gear question? Did the Sony FX3 fix the green-yellow tint issues that the A7S III has? No. I get a lot of hate. First off, I own Sony cameras, so people can't say that I'm not a fanboy, right? Like I have Sony cameras. But the one thing that is very different for me when I shoot on Sony, and it's more apparent after I finish shooting on Red or after I finish shooting on Canon, is that however I paint in camera really becomes sort of like my corral, like how it is that I am bound in post-production. So they're less forgiving. And color temperature on the FX, did you say 3 or 6? Because I only have the 6. I have the FX6 and the Sony a7S III. Color temperature on the FX6, making sure you nail white balance is not easy. Like, it's just not easy. So what we're doing is before every shot, we pull up a gray card. Every shot, every time we change scenes, every time it's a new setup, every time we're in a new location, every time it's been more than 30 minutes and the sun has moved, every time, that's what I'm doing so that I can get better consistency across a full day of production with the FX6. It's not something that I would have to do on a Canon, and it's absolutely not something I would have to do on a Red, just for what it's worth. Let's see here. Jacob, my name is, okay, cool, good. I was hoping that I wasn't completely wrong there. When I upgraded my C100 Mark II to C70, it was like I went from a cell phone to a full frame camera. That's how big the quality usability difference was to me. Yeah, absolutely. And that's when, it's also weird because gear in some cases, like when you're used to working really hard to get a specific type of shot, but now you can get 5 shots in that same amount of time because you upgraded gear, then that's when you know that your abilities had exceeded that previous piece of gear. So yeah, that's totally true. I'm probably really behind on some of these comments based on what I'm reading here. Appreciate your Red content. I sold my Komodo pretty darn quickly after learning what it was capable of. It was tough, but logical decision for me as a hobby YouTuber. Yeah. Let's see here. The way you color grade Sony footage makes me love it more. It takes a village, right? Like, it's not just me, it's my team, it's the set, it's the production, it took a lot to make that work. And we, I guess thank you is the best thing I could say. Thank you. Cool. Let's see. I would argue gear matters more than ever. With the spread of vlogging, etc., clients are more familiar with names of vloggers. So when you show up with a cinema camera, they value that more. So Mr. B, that's kind of what I said in the beginning of this live, this YouTube live thing. We basically pivoted saying for our commercial work, we will only shoot commercial work on cinema cameras, period. I'm not taking anything away from any of the other capable cameras, but if it's not a cinema camera, it will not make it onto a commercial shoot for us. And that has worked out really, really well. I'm guessing in other spaces like wedding, for example, that's probably not going to be a valid thing to say because, when you're spending $25,000 on a wedding, if you could save a couple thousand on the video, why not? Okay, that's cool. Let's see, Tommy. Cool, so Kamiki is talking to Tommy, which is great. Love the conversation. Love your real world perspective, whether it's confirming something I might have already believed or challenged something I previously thought. The working man. Thanks, man. And that's really the bottom line. It's like, if we're trying to run a production company, we're not independently wealthy. Because if I was independently wealthy, I literally would just go after shooting my own features day in, day out, because the consequence is I never get anywhere, but I'm doing the one thing that I love 100% of the time. And that's just not the case. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going after work because I need to keep my employees paid. I need to keep this engine thing that we have going on in my company working. I need to be able to provide for my family and so on. So yeah, things begin to matter, and I'm very much like everybody else. I'm a working guy. That's what I am. There's really not much more to say there. Let's see. It's shallow, but aesthetics still play a pivotal role in closing out bids and securing clients. They want to see where their money was spent. The skills of the shooter is still important. Skills do matter. I think skills, and this is actually something that came up in the comments earlier, but that combination of having skills and having the gear that matches up to your skills, where you're pushing it to its potential. I think that that's where the magic is, and also where the balance needs to be, because when you have that, you're basically like, you're making an atom blow up. Like, that is the best case scenario for you as a professional in the gear. Like, you didn't overspend and you didn't underspend, which really means that on every project, you're maximizing your profit. And that's how successful business people are built. So there you go. Let's see. Having slowed down into videography as a hobby for the last few years, I would say that techniques and processes are more important for a newbie to learn. Skills are the number one most important thing for someone new to learn. Gear comes second. Once you begin charging clients for work, gear matters. Maybe that's a good way to summarize it. Owning gear is awesome. Yeah, having it sit on the shelf sucks though, right? But not owning some gear is also smart. Absolutely. Which, to your point, and I'm going to say something because you and I have had this conversation, make your decisions that make business sense, not what sounds cool to have. So this is one of the reasons why I don't rush out and pre-order every aperture light that comes out. Because what I've found is that we have multiple sets of lights, and Tommy would say you should always buy lights. And I would agree that lights play a significant role in whether something is or isn't successful. And I have purchased lights because of Tommy before, so then there's that. But the reason why I won't continue to exponentially build out my light kit is because I know that it's less expensive for me to go to a set that already has a light array if I'm going to be shooting on a cyc or a green screen. And I know that hiring a gaffer that might have his own set of lights, assuming they all match, right, it's a better option than for me to just constantly be spending money on lights that sit in a closet for days at a time. Because our portable light kit is the same one that we've been using for the last 7 years. And it works. And it's made by Westcott. And it works. And when we have to augment it, we augment it with the Titan tubes. And that's how portable we have to be when we're not going to be shooting in a studio environment, or when we're not hiring a gaffer. So I think Tyler and I actually had a conversation about that when the Nova was released, and maybe when the 600D was released, where I'm like, I'll just hire you, Tyler, moving forward, because I'm not going to just keep buying lights. Yeah, renting is way, way, way more economical. And yes, lights do take up a lot of space. That's funny. Newport plus. Okay, you guys are having a conversation. That's cool. Conversation continues because I don't read these fast enough, of course. Okay, this is actually really funny. And I've never ever heard anyone in real life say size doesn't matter. I've never heard that. It might be true, but it's probably not. Let's see. So there are two things about video gear. First, you need to have great foundation in the field, but second, getting up to speed on a particular gear is a major learning curve. Well, this is one of the reasons, and you guys get to see this a lot on my YouTube channel. Every time we have a new camera, I put it through its paces. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm testing it in multiple light scenarios, mixed light scenarios, different skin tones, and so on and so forth, so I can understand it so that I could screw up during my test and not screw up when I'm in front of a client. And I think a lot of people, a lot of professionals do this. And I know that on, I'm going to call it professional feature sets. They do this when they're making their lens selections, when they're making their lighting package selections. They see after they've chosen, okay, we're going to use an Alexa 65, or we're going to use an Alexa Mini, or whatever they're going to use. Then they go through their lens test to figure out which one is going to help them tell their stories. And their lens test is not just the lens, but also which lights are going to pair with those lenses, and so on and so forth. And they literally do that before they begin essentially blowing, multiple $1 million budgets, on their production. I do that at a tiny little level so that I could get an understanding of how the gear that I purchased works with the gear that I already have, because I understand who my clients are and what it is that I'm trying to deliver. But I think that really is important. You're right, getting up to speed on the gear, having the skills to understand what you're looking for when you're learning about your gear is equally as important. Gear you can't afford doesn't matter. So that's actually also very true, which kind of goes back to the comment I made earlier about understanding both like what our skill sets are and what our limitations are in terms of resources, so that we can then set our expectations as to what kind of product we're able to deliver. I think that matters a lot. Let's see here. Hey, what's good? What did I miss? You missed a lot. MM Media Visuals, a lot. So maybe you're gonna have to rewind it, because I think I've been talking for over an hour at this point. And there have been a lot of really great comments from everybody who is participating, which thank you again for taking the time to spend it here with me. Gear doesn't make you a good filmmaker. That's true. It's the experience. Yep, very true, Joaquin. Some people can't grasp that. So that's true, right? A lot of people, I think this is probably more true of people that are starting out. Everybody wants a magic bullet, which Red Giant and their software is called Magic Bullet for that reason, I believe. Everybody wants to be able to have a one-click correction and bam, I got Guardians of the Galaxy that I just finished shooting. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So to think that if you're, shooting on a, Canon M5 or M6, that if you buy a C500 Mark II, your images are going to get that much better. The image is going to be better, but if you didn't understand exposure, you might as well not have spent the money. And that's just the harsh reality. But then to take it up even a notch after that, it's very easy to make a camera like the C500 Mark II, which is a beast of a camera, a terrific cinema grade camera. A camera that I've said on this channel outperformed when I had a red 8K helium. I don't have that camera anymore. I have something different, but the C500 outperformed it. It's very easy to take a camera at that caliber and make it look worse than cell phone. Lack of skills make it super easy. Komodo's another great example of this. This is why we saw, and I said this earlier today, this is why we saw a lot of really, really horrible Komodo footage when Komodo released the Stormtrooper edition, so a bunch of people were able to get their hands on it that had never, ever shot on Red before. And for a long time, I was like, why is everybody loving Komodo when this is what you're getting out of it? And finally I realized it's not the camera, it's the guy operating that ruined those images. So yeah, then there you go. Let's see here. Yeah, I had to have a drink when I mentioned the FX6 because I know, like, I get a lot of hate from Sony people because I haven't covered Sony the way that I've covered Canon in the past. But it doesn't mean I haven't used Sony, right? The only camera that I haven't used at this point for video has been Nikon. I won't, you couldn't pay me enough to shoot on a Nikon camera. For no reason other than I know what I can get out of the cameras that I have used. So I'm not really interested in another lens system, another menu system, and that investment. I don't need it. So I'm not bashing on Nikon. But I get a lot of hate from Sony people, Sony users. You know, this is gonna sound borderline arrogant, but Sony has made it so that the masses can access their gear. From the A6500, 6300, and whichever camera came before that, their RX100 line, and so on. They put S-Log2 in a bunch of their cameras. They gave it to a lot of, not gave it to a lot, they brought in a lot of influential YouTubers to use their cameras. They've gotten a lot of love on YouTube because of their different price points. And the arrogant part of my comment is going to be that they don't have the real world working knowledge to criticize some of what it is that I say about the cameras. So they just attack me. And, you know, I understand that that's just, it comes with it. When you put yourself out there, like I'm putting myself out here, I know that I'm gonna have to, you know, bob and weave and dodge and sometimes take a punch. It's gonna happen. But every time that I have come across that and I've asked people to show me instead of just bash me with words, they haven't. And anyway, that's the reason why I took a drink before I talked about the FX6. FX6 is a great camera, but it's much more of a, well, I've already said it, so I'm gonna leave it alone. James, yeah. Thanks, James, for keeping the conversation going here, dude. Really appreciate it. James is like a pro live streamer. I'm just like learning. I personally saw the shutter issues with the FX6 when it's recording an almost double image of the movement. So, yeah. Yep, that's a problem. Explain why you use a certain focal length lens and explain why you are doing so on the C70 and why and how much frames. Okay. Lenses matter, lenses help tell stories. And the lens conversation is one that we will tackle, I think, over a series on YouTube because it's not one that you can just tell. Leo, thanks for stopping by from Paris. Appreciate it. Let's see here. The trick with AF for video is to control how and when it pauses. It turns it off. Canons have AF pause sign button. Yeah, I'm like seriously, I'm still trying to muster up the courage to rely on autofocus. I'm not quite there, and I just need to spend a lot more time experimenting. But I think you're right. Like if I learn how to use it, I'm going to be able to rely on it. I've used it for YouTube videos. I'm not on a Canon camera right now. In case you guys are wondering, that's a Mevo camera, and it's the 1080 version, so it's the less expensive version. So obviously it's using autofocus. It's basically a webcam, except it performs way better than a webcam. But yeah, if I learn how to use autofocus, I think I would like it. But then that also means I would use my cinema glass less. And I don't know how I feel about that after spending $26,000 on each of the 2 sets that we own. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like every time I use the lenses, I'm like, it was a good investment. You're still making money off of them. And we've had them now for so many years that, clearly we have made money off of them. Speaking of lenses, and just because this is something that's been like on me, I really think this is a want, not a need. So this is not something I'm recommending people to consider. But I want to build up a PL lens collection. Here's my reasoning, twofold. The future of Canon's cinema line of cameras is going to be RF, without a doubt. And the future is likely going to include interchangeable mounts like the C500 Mark II. PL glass is where I need to be, and all that EF glass that I have will likely need to find a new home. So I'm thinking about buying the Sumaray set. Long way of saying that, but I think I really like those. I did already start buying some Cook S4s, and they're pricey. So this is why I'm leaning, I don't know. I'll probably build both collections. I mean, if I'm honest with myself, because I really like the look of both of those sets of lenses. So, but it's a want, not a need, because my current clients are very happy with what we have. So big disclaimer there. Cool. Conversation's going. Really like this. You guys are awesome. Let's see here. So big color shifts with the variable ND, especially on the extremes. So I could see why that would happen. I haven't seen that, but I've also not maxed out my variable ND. But I would be really curious, Lucky, if you would maybe mention which lenses you're using. I know that I got hate for saying this before, but for anyone who shoots on Rokinon lenses, just know that I get it. They're affordable. They get you, 70 to 80% of where you want to be, and so on and so forth. But Rokinon lenses are like the culprit of so many problems, and why I would never recommend them to anyone. And I don't care if it's their Cine line or their DS line or their stills, like they're just not good lenses. And they make great cameras look really bad. Frosty Flake, thanks for stopping by. Did you pick up 2 FX6s? That's pretty awesome. They've started shipping, which is actually really cool. I saw Film Tools send off an email saying, hey, they got a whole batch. Make sure you get yours ordered today, type of thing, which is really cool. Joaquin, would you mind speaking about the experience with motion cadence? I've seen this issue in Sony, but realized frame rate, aliasing, modern sharp lenses can. Yeah, so Joaquin, I think I'm going to address that in a dedicated Sony video so that I could do it some justice, because it is a real issue, and it's, you know, one of those things, one of the reasons why I said it's more of a camcorder than it is a cinema camera, and why it is that it's best suited for broadcast work than it is for commercial work. Can it do commercial work? Yes. So don't hate me, people. I'm just being honest. Let's see here. I watch regularly your channels about video on YouTube because you are pro working DP, and YouTube is the second thing. We just share experience gained during main work. Thank you, shout out R5. Really appreciate that. You're really impacting, bro. Good work. Thank you, Norris. Appreciate it. Vincent, hi. I think it does matter, but when we really need to have great creativity too. So creativity is not a, like, you can't work in this field and not be creative. Like, I can't just know the menu system of my camera in and out and not understand how an angle or field of view or subject separation may help progress or pace my story. You're absolutely right. You need to understand more than just the gear. Tato got you. Gaston, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. I don't know if you watched it from the beginning or not, but probably the first 10 minutes, my monologue is really why this whole thing came up, in case you need to watch that again. Bit off topic, what lightweight light kit would you recommend? So for our mobile productions, and when we need lightweight lights, we use the Westcott panels. So they're flexible, they're lightweight, which really means I can travel with lighter weight tripods or supports for them. Beautiful quality of light, very consistent. And the best part for me, and Tommy might be able to speak on this, the best part for me when it comes to Westcott lights is that across every single model and line of lights, they have the same consistency and color quality. And that's not something many other manufacturers can say. So that's the reason why I went there. Gear does matter. Yep, Gaston, you were right. If your house was burning down and you had to choose between a bucket of water or a fire truck, which one would you choose? That's such a good analogy. I'm gonna borrow it and I might steal it when I'm talking to my clients. That is golden. Appreciate it. Random gear doesn't matter, but the right gear for the right job matters. Absolutely, 100% of the time. Max. Thanks for stopping by, dude. Always nice to see you in the chat. The Reckless Badger, oh, late to the party, am I that late? We've been going for an hour and 34 minutes, so I'm not sure how much you missed. Maybe you might have to rewind it. Still for some really bad Komodo footage videos being released. So yes, Ben, you're right. And I'm trying to do my part by sharing what I know about shooting on Red. But what I would really like to see from the rest of the Red community is that they also shared more. And I'm gonna tell you, like 10 out of 10 times, the number one resource for Red anything, knowledge, content, information, is going to be Phil Holland. If you have a Red related question, guaranteed he will have an answer. And then after him, Mark Tonia, probably. And after Mark, that shares their stuff on YouTube, I guess it would be me. And I'm sure it's not me. Somebody needs to step up, I guess is really what I'm saying. Total agreement with your thoughts and points. Thank you, Randall. Always nice to see you, bro. Really good to see you here. Can the R5 feature film image-wise? I'll tell you what, Max. There's a video that will be released on this channel. I can't give you the answer right away, right? I have to keep you watching. But there will be a video that will be released on this channel in some future time, which really means you need to subscribe and click on the notification bell, Max, so that you're notified when the video is released, so that you can get the answer to whether the R5 can compete against cameras like the Red Monstro, 8K versus 8K, 8K RAW versus 8K RAW R3D. We're gonna find out. It will be released. It will be on this channel. I promise you. But that means, Max, you have to subscribe and you have to ring the notification bell. If you guys don't know why I just did that, because Max did that for like a 10 or 11 minute video on his channel, and I got suckered into watching all 10 or 12 minutes of it. So it's kind of fun. Don't take offense, Max. I was joking. But I am not joking about the video. That will be released. Why did that get deleted? That's true. I'm not sure what we're talking about, Ben. Oh my God, I feel so violated. I have been banging my head against the wall with these guys in the shutter issues. I'm so glad I'm not the only one. No, you're not the only one, Claire. You're not. It's true. But you already can buy the RF to PL mount adapter with Canon drop-in filter capabilities. So yeah, with the drop-in filter? Really? I guess I didn't know that, shot an R5. I didn't know that. Let's see here. Robert, Ari recently added EF. Not that I do not love PL lenses. I just feel like, well, let me ask you this. Has anyone heard of Canon making a new version of an EF lens? I don't think they are. So EF lenses, when I did the whole C70 autofocus comparison, and I compared the RF lenses that I own against the EF lenses that I own, Shout on R5 left a very nice, comprehensive comment on that video series, which you guys might want to check it out. But essentially what I said was, RF lenses are way faster, way smoother, much quieter. And then Shout on R5 gave us the reasons why all of that is true. After seeing the speed, the smoothness, and the quality that comes out of the RF lenses, it's harder to go back to the EF lenses, for me. So I just don't really want to continue to invest on EF or EF as a system. I have a huge collection, so I'm not saying they're going away, but I think my future, where I'm at in my career with my team, my clients and such, we really need to begin to look towards that future, and that future for us is likely PL based or RF based, where we can adapt PL glass. That's kind of where I'm at. If you want to know where, DM me. What happened here? All EF lenses. On all lenses, especially when variable ND is set highest, very blue color cast. So are you using, I'm curious now, and now I'm gonna have to go find out and see for myself, but are you using auto white balance or are you setting the white balance? And here's the reason why I asked this. And this is true of like cinema cameras, for example. On Red, you have to do this every single time. It's not a, once in a while type of thing. If you change the ND value on a red shot to shot. So let's say you went from an extreme close-up right here of me and my face on red to a medium shot, you're going to need a different ND value. So for that different ND value, I need to reset my white balance if I want to see a good image in post. So we typically just bring up like a gray card, 3 seconds, we do our take, we do the second shot, a wide shot or whatever the other shot is. Again, bring up the gray card, take that shot. It makes post-production, makes everything match, because changing the ND value changes the way that the sensor is reading the light and the light quality or light color. So cheap ND filters are prone to bigger problems where, say, the Firecrest NDs by, I forget who makes them, High Tech, I think it's the company that makes them. They're very, very high quality, or the Schneider version that are also very, very high quality and very expensive. They affect color rendition differently or less. They're more subtle, but they're still there. And when you have cameras like the R5, the C70, the C500 Mark II, the Red Komodo, the Red Monstro, and so on, like any modern cinema grade camera or sensor that is able to see way more color than any camera could back when they were making multi-chip cameras, those little tiny variances matter a lot. And that's the reason why I'm asking if you had it set to auto white balance or if you were doing a manual white balance when you adjusted your NDs. We'll see if we get that answer. Okay, love your videos, especially breaking down Red Komodo exposure tools. Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it. Plans for walkthroughs on lighting actual scenes. The short answer is yes. The not so good answer is that for those videos, if we're going to have more people on set, we really need the COVID restrictions to loosen up. So right now, when we still go or get on set, we're going in there with what I call my skeleton crew. So basically 1 to 3 people, depending on the client. We keep our distance from the client. We communicate with the client before we get there about what the client's doing, what we're doing, and how we're going to treat all that. And if we were going to show, basically lighting setups or breakdowns in actual productions, I need to bring in what would be my second crew to do the BTS for that. And I don't have that luxury right now with the restrictions that we have to work within. So yes, at some point, absolutely. Who are your big filmmaking influences? Oh my God. That's really, it's a difficult answer for me because it isn't 1 or 2. I love Quentin Tarantino, for example, but not in all aspects. Like, I don't like how wordy his movies are. I feel like they're dialogue heavy. It's awesome, but they're dialogue heavy. But the aesthetics of what he ends up with, I'm a big fan of. I don't know, I think I need to think about that, and I'll give you guys that answer in a future video. That's a really good question. I like a lot of little things from a lot of people, and even some people that I follow here on YouTube. And that has influenced and shaped sort of where I'm at and what it is that I do and how it is that I do things. There's a couple of 5D Mark II clips in Avengers. Really? I guess I didn't know that, Kyle. Thanks for bringing that up. Max, you are subscribed. That's funny. Okay. Venice rental when? Mako. At this point, with the work that we have lined up, it'll likely be the end of summer. That's the earliest. And I hate to rent cameras and then make content about them, which is the reason why, on my channel, really, the only content you guys see are the cameras that I own. But if I could find a colleague, a filmmaker that has access to this gear, where he can talk more about just like a rental period with that camera, I think that would be more valuable and more real. I'm just not into the whole drive-by coverage of anything. Like, I don't want to be the first one that drops a review on the Canon C200 Mark III, whenever, if ever, that's a thing. But then I have to give it back in 48 hours or a week even. That's not enough time to get the soul and the feeling of what that camera is capable of, or any camera for that matter. So I don't want to be a drive-by YouTuber or drive-by YouTube reviewer. I would rather say, hey, this shit happened to me on set, or this worked out really well on set, and have something to back up the words that are coming out of my mouth, instead of, I borrowed a camera and I'm gonna, follow my cat around the house. I don't want to do that. Oh, let's see. R5 with manual white balance. Ooh, that's scary if it's with manual white balance. Take care. Shout out on R5. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. As someone who has worked with many high-end productions, I can say gear matters, and with that expertise in the gear matters as much. It's awesome. Thanks for the comment, Randall. Always appreciate it, sir. I work in rentals and tested the variable ND adapter with white balance locked on manual and EF lenses. I also seen a big blue color shift cast at max density. That sucks. That sucks big time. Yeah. Thanks for answering the questions. How can I convince you to watch my horror short? Send me a link. Yeah, send me a link and I'll watch it. I read some of Tarantino's scripts and I think his dialogue is overrated. I think he gets actors who make his dialogue great. No doubt, he always gets terrific actors, right? Like, there is that about him. For the first time in the history of me doing YouTube lives, this is the last comment, which is awesome. I've actually gotten through my comments. There's no way to know if a camera is generally good or not within the rental period. Not at all, not ever. I don't care what anybody says, or when they release these pre-production models so that YouTubers can make reviews. Thank you, but how did that help me when you're only telling us what the manufacturer released in their spec sheet? For what it's worth. My 2 cents. I don't have to be right. Most modern full frame and APS-C sensor cameras is good enough to deliver. That's absolutely true. What matters most is lighting, composition, scripting, acting, editing. Absolutely true. 100% Brett. Completely agree. Absolutely. Claire, sorry Carlos, I posted a question earlier about a monitor solution. Perhaps it was not relevant. I will ask again on a C70 related stream in the future. Please do one. I will. So Claire, I must have missed it, so I apologize for that. With that, the monitor that I use on my C70 is the Small HD 702 daylight viewable monitor, and it's beautiful. It works. I realize it's a 7-inch monitor, not a 5, but it allows me to get the shot that I need and make sure that I can maintain continuity and that nothing is accidentally in the frame that shouldn't be, which is the reason why I choose that monitor. And also, that is the same monitor that I use on my C500 and on my Red cameras, because it's that good. If they made a version that was 4K, I would buy that version. And by 4K, I mean 4K resolution, not being able to accept a 4K signal. Because I would like to be able to punch in 1-to-1 to what the sensor is seeing to fine tune whatever I might need to fine tune on my projects. So I'm not sure if that answered the question that you were hoping for or not, but I will look for your comment and then I'll try to make sure that I answer it. Thanks, take care. I'm going to unsubscribe so I can subscribe again. All right, Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks, Carlos. Always refreshing to hear your points of views. Have a good weekend. Thanks, Marshall, for stopping by and catching this live stream. Really appreciate you all. We had a lot of people on the live stream today. You guys are actually terrific. Thanks, Frosty. Let's see here. Speaking about test sample cameras, how's doing the LCD screen on your C70? I've been hearing some people complaining about worrying about its durability. So my C70 screen has 0 issues. I'm positive that we are over 2,000 hours on our C70 at this point of use, and I don't have any issues with my screen at all. Can you output LUTs from the monitor over SDI to the client? That's my main gripe with the monitor and the camera, and I'm trying to solve. I will check when I'm in the studio. It'll likely be Monday, and then I will post a comment on this video so that you can see it clear. I don't remember, but I thought if I was feeding the LUT through my monitor, I will check. I need to check because I almost misspoke. I'm pretty sure that my wireless transmitter is actually feeding my monitor, not my monitor feeding the wireless transmitter. But I will double check that and I will post it on here. So again, guys, thanks for being so awesome. We've been at this almost 2 hours, 1 hour and 52 minutes. This is probably the longest live stream I've ever done. I only took 2 drinks of wine, didn't even finish my water. You guys are terrific. Thank you for everybody participating in the chat. Thanks for everybody that has subscribed and has supported this channel. You guys are really the reason why I keep doing this. So thanks again, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.
I got wasn't there at all.